We are going to begin work on a compare and contrast essay. And there's a couple of ways to organize a compare and contrast essay. You can do it block organization or point by point. And we're actually going to write one of each. In the block essay, you're going to have your paragraphs. And let's say you were comparing two people. And one person's name is Sam and the other one is Joe. So you would devote a whole paragraph to Sam's characteristics, and you would devote a whole paragraph to Joe's characteristics. And let's say for Sam, you talked about where he lived, his interest, his education, and maybe his goals. You're going to have to do the same thing for Joe, where he lived, his interest, education, and goals. A point by point, and this is a paragraph. The whole paragraph's to Sam, the whole paragraph's to Joel. And point by point, you would take one of the traits, say where they lived, and first you would tell about Sam, then you would tell about Joel. And this would be in the same paragraph. And then you would talk about their interest, and you would say a sentence about Sam, then about Joe. Then you would talk about their education, you would talk about Sam, and then you would talk about Joe. And so this is all in one paragraph, and that's the point by point. We make a point about each one right after the other. The block is where you take all the attributes or characteristics you're going to talk about Sam, and you keep that in one paragraph, and all the attributes you're going to talk about Joe, and keep that in one paragraph. And so for our first essay, we're going to do the block essay. But before you even start writing, you have to pick your topic, and you have to pick your audience. And your audience is who this is written for. You're going to write very different if you're writing for 5-year-olds, or if you're writing for a college professor, or you're writing for your boss at work, or you're writing for a class. So consider your audience. And really that's probably number one. And number two is your topic, because you're going to pick your topic based on your audience. And the best way for this class anyways is just go online and research compare and contrast essays, topics, and find one that you like. And I want to approve it before you start writing on it. Apple versus Microsoft, Coke versus Pepsi, Renaissance versus, I don't know how to say that, childhood versus adulthood, Star Wars versus Star Trek. So pick something you're interested in and actually want to learn about, and choose that topic for your compare and contrast essay. So once we have our audience and we have our topic, we're going to look for our sources. And for our sources, remember, we want to have an author, we want to have a date, and we want to have a publisher or a publication. And those represent good sources. And once we have our sources, then we're going to do our outline. And then we're going to write our draft. And then we're going to dress it up. It's pretty much the same process. And we're going to make sure it's formatted correctly. So right now we're looking at audience, we're looking at topic, and we're going to look for block by block organization. So pick your topic. This week, pick your topic and tell me your audience. And then find your sources. Now let's say that you want to do a compare and contrast between, let's try and pick something that you're really interested in, and that you might be doing for learning in another class that would help you with that. Let's say that you see this a little bit, Lincoln versus Kennedy. Okay. And you're going to have to do some research. So who's your audience? And let's just say your audience is other high school students, and your topic is Lincoln versus Kennedy. And your sources, what would probably be easiest is to find a great source for Lincoln and a great source for Kennedy, and pick some information that you want to compare and contrast. So let's say you could compare and contrast their physical characteristics. What did they look like? How did they appeal to the public? You could compare and contrast their economy and state of affairs at the time of their election. You could also include information about their assassinations. And you might include how they are remembered. Now, it would be great if you could find one source that had all of those about Lincoln and one source that had all of those about Kennedy. And as you're looking at your sources, you might want to change your topics that you're going to compare and contrast. But this is what I want you to work on this week. Your audience, and we're going to assume high school students, unless you want to write for a younger age or history majors, if you wanted to try and go above and beyond, and then pick your topic and find your sources. They need to have an author, a date, a publisher, or a publication. And pick out what you're going to compare. So as you're looking through your sources, you're going to find different things about your topics and try to find information about each of the characteristics that you're chosen. And like I said, once you start looking, say you were doing Lincoln versus Kennedy, and you could not find anything about their physical characteristics. So I can't find my pen. So you might have to you'd have to do one or two things. You would have to get another source, or you would have to change this attribute. Say, okay, I can't find anything about their physical characteristics. So instead, I'm going to talk about their spouses. So as you're doing your research, you might have to change these, but be sure you can find some good information about each of your topics, or it's going to make your writing very, very difficult, because you always want to have more information than you're going to be able to use. So right now, audience, your topic, and your sources. And if you want to go ahead and outline, I'm not going to put that down, but if you have good luck in finding your sources, you can go ahead and start on an outline. And your outline, we're going to do block by block. And so you're going to pick, let's say you pick spouses, and you're going to put the information about the spouses down. And since you're dealing with two sources, I usually like to do letters for the sources. And give each source its letter so that you can keep this all organized. So for one, if you found it A, write it out. B, write it out. So try and keep yourself organized in where you're getting your information from. It gets a little tricky. Once you've got the organization down though, the writing is so much easier. So if you spend your time in organization, the writing will come easier. So this week, our audience we're assuming is high school students. Second, pick your topic. And third, find your sources. If you want to start on the outline, that's fine. Otherwise, we'll be doing that next week. And as soon as you find your topic, go ahead and send it to me, and we can move forward from there. That's the end of the video.